Shuffling in here. It's 5 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. So my name is Trenton. I am the Tier 2 supervisor for XBEL. I'm just gonna go over DapNext with you guys. Just kind of what's new about it, what's different from normal DAP, um, and we're gonna just kind of give you a rundown on everything in it. Thankfully, not too much is really different from DAP 11. It's mostly an overhaul on the looks of it. It's a little bit more streamlined. Things are kind of going to be in different places, a little bit easier to navigate than what DAP 11 was. It'll just take a little adjusting. So this is going to be the home screen of DapNext. Of course, we still have a lot of the how-to videos. And we do still have the rotating screen here. So search parts, this is where your search bar is going to be. This is what you're going to use if you need to search specific parts. So a specific part number. Once you hover over part, it's going to give you a list. Part search is going to be where you would normally look up your vehicles. So you'll be able to select your year, make, and model right here. And again, that's going to be part search right at the top. Ooh, looks like we got a few more people join. I'll give it a second, let them get in here. All right. So as you see, this is going to be relatively the same as DAP 11, just a little bit different look. One thing that is changed is saved parts is no longer called saved parts. It's going to be called part revisions, which is going to be right here. Favorite parts is actually a pretty new thing. What's nice about that is, let's see, let's see if this will bring something up. These are all revision. So one thing that is being added is you can now see parts that are in plan to be added, and they're going to be called planned parts. And see if I can find. Perfect. Here we go. So right here, it'll say planned parts. Now, one thing that you can do is, say you really need this planned part, but it's not out yet. What you can do is you can click the 3 little dots right here, and you'll be able to add that to your favorites. Once it's added to your favorites, you will be able to see it right here in your favorite parts. And that way you can navigate to them quickly. Now, another thing with these planned parts, though, is you can actually click subscribe on them, and you'll be able to enter in your email address, and you will get an email as soon as that part is released. Another thing about this is the more people that subscribe to a certain part, the higher in the to-do list it will go for the designers. So the designers have a list of the most favorited or most subscribed parts, and they're going to be working down that list. So the more people that subscribe to it, the higher it goes. So it's definitely recommended to subscribe to parts that you need. So favorite parts is just kind of an easy way to get to whatever parts that you access a lot that isn't necessarily a part revision. Part revision is the same thing as saved parts. Part revision is the same thing as saved parts. It's just a different name. Recently added is exactly how it sounds. It's going to be all of our kits that we have recently added into DAP. So if you're subscribed to a part and you don't have it in your favorite parts, you'll be able to find it in recently added once it's released. Your watch list is going to be where your subscribed parts are located. So if I go back here and do subscribe, it will then show up under your watch list. Plotter test parts, this is where we keep just our test cuts. We have our typical little rectangles that are different sizes depending on what size your film you're using. That way you can test the length. These are the same ones that are in DAP 11 currently. We also have the little triangle, square, and circle. So that's going to be the parts tab. Again, not much has changed from DAP 11 as far as those go, just kind of different spots than what you would normally go to. So our customers tab is going to be something that is brand new to DapNext. Something that did come with DapNext is what we call admin users. So certain users are going to have more permissions in DAP than other users. The first user that is made on a DAP subscription is always going to be the admin user. It's what the business owner or business manager will be using, and they'll be able to make, and skip ahead a little bit and go to users, they will be able to make users for their employees. And as you can see, it shows the role. So admin role is going to be the person who can access everything. User is going to be for like your installers or just your everyday user of DAP. They're not going to have access to the customer tab. They're not going to be able to add any more users or change the passwords or anything like that. We also do have a non-cutting user. So if you have just a receptionist that doesn't need access to the plotter and everything, you can make them a specific user and password and have it dedicated to non-cutting, so they won't be able to have the access to cut. And then shop computer is going to be for the shops that don't want everyone to have their own username and be having to go log in and log out. The shop computer is just a shared username and password that anyone will be able to use, but still not have the permissions of admin. It's essentially a user permission without having to enter in like specific name and email and stuff like that. So going back to the customers tab, you'll be able to see the customers. You'll be able to add customers, name, last name, phone number, stuff like that. Once they're in there, you'll be able to, oh no, that's actually leads. So this is just creating the customer. Leads at the moment is a little bugged, and that is going to be something that is to be recognized with DapNext. It is still in beta, so there are going to be a few bugs. So like right now, if I were to click add new lead, at least on my page, it just sends me into a never-ending loading screen. That should be fixed, probably by tomorrow, honestly. Is there audio? Can you guys hear me? Okay. Been a little awkward if I was talking to myself. So, but this is going to be where you add your leads. And if you have a external area that you generate leads from and you can export that, there will soon be an option in leads that you'll be able to actually import leads from a different area. So as long as you can export your leads from there, you'll be able to import it in DapNext. Once they add that, it'll probably be right here saying import. Now jobs and job dashboard, that is going to be from DAP 11. It's just under its own tab now. Jobs isn't going to be any different than DAP 11. You'll just still be able to add a job. You'll be able to add the customer name that you added from customers. You can click requested by coverage, all that stuff. Install notes, of course, just like DAP 11. You'll be able to change the statuses once they are inputted, and which I can show you how to add job statuses as well. And then, all the basic stuff. Once it's saved, it will show under jobs, and then job dashboard is pretty much the same thing. It's just a bit more simplified. It's what you use to see kind of like a to-do list. And it'll use the same information as jobs. Expel account, again, this is going to be a new tab in DapNext. Everything in this tab is going to be brand new. So you will now be able to track your Expel transactions. So if you ordered roles, your DAP subscription payments, everything like that, you'll be able to track under this tab. So you'll also be able to make a payment. So if you owe Expel for any kind of role order or just any order in general, you can make a payment through DAP. Invoices is going to be very similar to transactions. It is just specifically for invoices. So no sales orders, just invoices, stuff like that. And then DAP invoices, again, same thing, just specifically for DAP invoices. And you'll be able to see the ones that are open, the ones that have been paid in full. So there we go. And of course, you will be able to, yeah, a little bug right there, filter these as well. Settings. So first in settings, we do have preferences. So this is going to be where you can change. So you can change, instead of searching year first, you can change it as model. I always prefer searching year. Unit of measure, imperial metric. You'll be able to change your time zone under here as well as the language. So locations. Locations are definitely important, especially if you're using any of the job tools, or really any tools in general. Even just adding users, job locations are important. Even if you only have one location, it's important to add that location in there, which again is very straightforward, just the name and the address. Once it's in there, this is where you can edit your job statuses. So right now we have 3 of the basic ones, and you can turn these on and off, but you'll be able to add a status. So like say it is currently, you want to add the status for waiting on customer. If I can spell. And then now you'll be able to go into the jobs, and that will be a status. I need to do location. Okay. I may have to restart DAP in order for that to take effect. Oh, there we go. Okay, so that was my mistake. I wasn't signed into the location. So that's why that's important, is you have to be signed in the location for it to show what's on there. So you can be able to order. So that's why locations are important. And then of course you can add locations. Labor profiles. So labor profiles ties into price columns. So if you're creating a price columns specifically for like to kind of give you a rough basis on what a kit would cost, you can add that in a labor profile. You would include the difficulty pricing. So every kit has a difficulty pricing going from 1 to 5, 1 being the easiest, 5 being the hardest, of course. And you can then enter in how many hours you think that kit would take. So if it's a difficulty of 1, maybe 30 minutes, difficulty of 5, maybe a 4-hour job. And then you put the description. And then the hourly rate can be, $20. And that'll add the labor profile, which again will come into play for price columns. Material settings. Material settings is definitely more of one of my favorite settings to add. So you can go in and you can do, let's say XR plus, or the manufacturer would be XBEL, description would be XR plus. And then if it's a sheet, you can select sheet. Or if it's a roll, you would just leave that off. Window tint. And you can click OK. It'll add that in there. And then once it's added, you can go in here, click edit, and this is where you would add the size. So add material size. It is going to be in inches. So the length, say it's 100 feet, is going to be 1,200 inches. The width, let's say it's a 60-inch width. And then your cost, whatever it would cost. I think XR Plus is closer to like 1,000. Now, once you have the material settings in there, you can then, when you're in a kit, let's do Ford F-150. So for tint, since we do have master kits for tint, the way to get material settings to work is you do have to delete everything you're not cutting. So say I just want to cut that. And then boom, you get a little red square around it. This kind of represents the width of the film. So 60 inches, it would be, this is 60 inches width, and then it is 66 inches in length, which would give you your total here. Once you do add a material, you do have to restart DAP. That is, and that's going to go for a lot of the main settings. If you change something in those settings, a DAP restart isn't usually needed. So like I just added that material, and we can go back into the kit and it will show up. There we go. Let's see. Can you change all settings and restart? You can change all the settings then restart. You don't have to restart every setting. It's just once you change everything, then you go in and restart. So like if you're adding multiple material settings, you can add all of those in there and then restart the program. You won't have to restart every single material settings or role that you put in there. It just needs that initial restart to kind of put it into the system. But as you see, there's the XR Plus, and it shows $29 for this little window. So I really like material settings. It's something that just helps a lot of customers, and especially because I also like the little risk square that it puts around, because it gives you a sense of how much film you're actually using. So if you wanted to add anything in here, it shows you kind of like that empty space where you could add other stuff you need to cut, so you're not wasting material. And then same with PPF. Do the rocker panel kit. PPF's a little easier since we don't have master kits. The material settings should automatically pop up once you go in there. And you can even switch materials right here, which looks like I don't have any other PPF added. But if I had like a 60-inch, I would be able to go here and click 60-inch, and it would then show me just like in tints. So now we do get to price columns. So price columns are going to take into effect both material settings and labor for any custom ones. We do have two kind of default ones, which is the suggested dealer and retail. I do have to warn, there is at least 2 bugs currently with price columns that the devs are currently working very hard to fix. And it just kind of messes with the pricing, at least in DapNext. It seems to be okay in DAP 11, but for some reason in DapNext, it's either raising some prices and lowering others, even though that's not the price it should be. So just a little warning with the price columns in DapNext. Again, they're working very hard. It's one of their priority focuses right now is to fix this bug, so it should be fixed very soon. So like right here, we have the material cost price column, and you would just click the material you want to add in there. So you can, this is the PPF material. You can do a tint material, and right here you can even do, if you wanted like a markup. So material plus 10%. And this is actually the part that is slightly bugging out, is the markup. And then you can also do any kind of adjustment or number of decibels if you needed. Now for labor, it's going to be very similar to material. You pick the labor profile that you made in settings. You can do any kind of markup. To my knowledge, I don't think labor usually has any markups, just because you inputted how much the labor costs to begin with. But if you want to do a markup, for sure, you want to name it, put in the currency that you'll be using. So Australian, am I missing it? I am missing it, there it is. And any kind of comments. So now if I turn those on, we can go to part search, and then boom, it will show you. And yeah, see right here, this is a good example. My material, I added that markup, and it's showing me 0, which is definitely not 0. Actually, that would be why it's showing 0. There's no materials added for that big of a kit. Let's go ahead and add that. So we can actually just add it to an existing material. So if you have the same kind of material, but multiple sizes of rolls, you can add lengths to the material. So we'll do 1200 length, 60 inches wide, cost 500. And then, unfortunately, again, we do have to restart. There we go. Okay. So material cost for tint will always show 0 just because it's a master kit. There's a bunch of kits in there, so it doesn't exactly have anything to go off of inside the kit. Whereas the PPF kits will show how much. So this is the suggested retail, suggested dealer, and then this is our custom material, which, yeah, see, these prices are definitely off. So it is a little buggy. They should fix that again relatively soon. It's the main bug they're focusing on fixing currently, just because it is causing problems for customers, and it should be fixed very soon. Any questions on the materials or price columns? Because I know that's can be a tricky one. Click. When is this going to be ready? So tint kits, it isn't really. Price columns isn't really going to be ready for tint kits just because, again, we use master kits. And so it pulls the data. The way it works for PPF is it pulls the data from the size of the kit. But tint kits being so big because it uses all the kits, you have a 150 width and a 490 length. It doesn't really have the data to pull off of. Yes, you can resave the kit of tint. So if you want to delete everything, then save it, it would work in the part revisions for the price columns. Which it will once they put that in there. So locator listings, this is if you have a dealer locator listing, this is where you would be able to upload your logo image, building image, stuff like that. You'd be able to edit all that from here. And then users, of course, I went down. You can, if you have a user, you'll be able to edit them, change password. You'll be able to edit all their information from here as long as you're in the admin account. So going to tools, DapFriend. DapFriend is a very cool tool. What DapFriends does is it allows you to share saved kits between two different subscriptions. So say you and the dealership down the road, you guys both use DAP and you want to share your saved patterns. Maybe he did a pattern for a Lamborghini and he edited just right, and you want to do the same thing but don't want to go through the process of editing it all over. What you can do is, now this isn't turned on by default for most accounts. We are trying to fix that to have it is, but at the moment, if you go under tools and you do not see DapFriends, reach out to us and we will turn it on. Once you have it enabled on the account, you have a code right here, which you would copy. You would give that to the dealership down the road, and they would enter it here. They would then give you a code. You would enter it here. You would both click Add Friends, and then you'll be able to add them, accept the request through pending approvals, and then you'll be able to see your pending requests that haven't been accepted yet. And of course, you'll be able to see your friends. So like right now, the people following me, which would be, they would be able to see my kit shared to them as XPEL account, and then people I'm following, which is kits they shared to me, and of course as XPEL accounts. But how that works is you'd be able to go into part revisions, and it would have to actually, let me create. So basically, once you have a kit that you made, save that as test, save, and then go to part revisions, and you can do it by the date created. Well, normally you can do it by the date created. Let's do tester. There we go. So right here, you'd be able to click shared. And once you click that, you are now sharing that kit with that dealership down the road. Or if they did it, they would be sharing it with you. So it's a really cool tool if you guys want to share kits, and just kind of a way to help each other out. Film inventory is another very cool tool. It is also in beta. So one thing, just if you do mess with this, there is no delete button at the moment. So anything you add in there is in there. But this is a way to keep track of film that you're using. So first you would add the SKU, a SKU being right here, XUP 60-50, the description being, just put PPF, width, which would be 60. Now this one is in feet, unlike material settings, so you can just put 50 feet in length, cost being 500, and your reorder point being once you're at one roll, it'll let you know to reorder. So now we have a SKU in there. Once you have a SKU in there, you can look at the roll details. This is where it'll tell you how many rolls of that you have on hand. To add a roll, you would just put in the roll ID, let's see, 9990, hit OK, and now you have a roll in there, and it will show you how much you have on hand, what's the length, what's the original length, how much is left. You can also adjust it. So say you're adding a roll that you've already halfway used. You didn't enter it when you started using it, but you want to enter it now. So then you could do an adjustment an amount of 25 feet. And you can just do other. And then you can put a note saying half used. And that will adjust it. And you can also go the other way. So if you click the little subtract number, you can also add it. So say you actually found out you have 26 feet instead of 25 feet, you can add another foot. So now say you needed to use that material to hand cut. You can put the amount length, who the installer was, the work order, and all that stuff, and it will keep track of that for you in film inventory. You can see the history of that roll. So like I just made an adjustment amount. And you can also scrap the remainder of your roll. And that will put the roll status as used. Now you can't unscrap a roll, unfortunately. So once it's scrapped, it is scrapped. You will just keep getting this area. It doesn't give you the option to put it back. So if you do scrap a world, just make sure it is fully used before scrapping it. But again, as you can see, I don't have any delete button. So one issue that we do come across sometimes is adding the role ID to the wrong SKU. And if that happens, we don't have a way to, without getting to the devs, which can take a while. The devs are the only ones that can delete that. Now, it is something that we are bringing up a lot, and I do know they are planning to put a delete button in there, or at least a edit button. It's just not in there yet. Like I said, this is definitely a beta tool. It is one that came out with DAP 11. It just hasn't been shined off. Now, when you are printing, in order to keep track of the film inventory, you would put the role ID of the role that you're printing with. Now, one thing I do recommend, DAP is compatible with Bluetooth scanners or even wired scanners. So if you have like a little scanner, you can scan that and you can scan the role and automatically put that in there. So that way you're not having to manually type the role ID each time. But once the role ID is in there and you hit plot, it will automatically subtract that amount from the role. Definitely a nice little tool, definitely needs some refining, but as long as everything is inputted correctly, it works pretty good. Web Connect hasn't been fully integrated into DapNext yet. So if you do have a Web Connect set up, you would have to do it still through DAP 11. Reports, this is where you'll be able to see cut bank. So cut bank is no longer at the top. I'm sure a lot of you have already realized that. So you'll be able to see your cut bank credits right here in the cut bank report. This is also where you will add a role with the role ID and security code if you have to do it manually, if it didn't automatically input the cut bank credits into the system. Job, so this is kind of like job, the job dashboard. It's just, this shows you the whole history. So kind of like the reporting side of those jobs. It would show you the wasted square feet, the plot ID, stuff like that. And then, of course, this is going to be your full plot log. So both tint and PPF cuts, anything that was cut through this account will show here. It will also show you the username that cut it. So if you have multiple users, you'll be able to tell who is who, and you can also filter it out. And then what's nice is now you can export those plot logs. So if you need to be able to export them, you can export them into a nice Excel file, and it will show you exactly. Let me open that and show you what that would look like. And this is what it would look like in your Excel file. So you'll be able to, from there, you can print it, email it off, any kind of reporting you need to do on the back end, you can do that. That was something that was definitely requested for in DAP 11, and that we're very happy to finally be able to get it into DapNext. Another thing is something that doesn't really show here just because it's a test account. This automatically from default shows you the past 3 months. So if you don't want the past 3 months logs, if you only want them from like the past day or the past month, you will need to go into the created date and filter it out and just kind of filter for what you need. So like if you only want from the start of August to August 9th, we can filter that, which probably just sent me into a never ending loading screen because I don't have any. But you'll be able to filter it from there. Perfect, awesome. And Just a warning, if you do hit export automatically, it will export everything from the past 3 months, which for some customers is a lot and will take a long time for that to process to export it into an Excel file.